Hello and welcome to Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the voice of college football. And folks, I wish we were here talking about some better circumstances, but unfortunately, we're here to talk about a Cyhawk loss for Iowa, 16-13. Iowa did lose the Cyhawk game on Saturday, and there's a lot to talk about within that game itself. There's a lot to talk about with the future of the program. We're going to get into all of that tonight, as well as take your comments and hear what you have to say. I want to open it up to the people tonight as well, because it's a tough loss. It's a tough loss for sure, no doubt about that. So. There's a lot to break down on and off the field. Lots of question marks for Iowa, way more so than we had after the week 1 win over Albany. And not the show we're hoping to record tonight, but the one that we're here to do anyways. My name is Zach Heine. I am solo hosting tonight. Josh will return on Thursday night. He had some high school sports broadcasting duties that prevent him from joining the show tonight, but we will see Josh back here on Thursday night to preview UMass. But no one wants to talk about UMass right now after a Cyhawk loss for Iowa. Third time in the last 4 years, Iowa has lost the Cyhawk game, their first loss in Ames since 2011. And a lot of the show I'm going to spend on the big picture with Iowa football, because I think it's a really fascinating conversation with the future of the program. I have some legit concerns about this program going forward, but we'll talk at first here about the game itself and what we saw. So I am going to share my screen and we're going to pull up the stats from this game. Unfortunately, Iowa fans, I'm so sorry. 16-13 loss. You can see the stats on your screen, the offensive stats for both teams. We'll start on the left there with Iowa. Mark Gronowski, 13 of 24, 83 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, 3.5 average per attempt, 29.2 QBR. Iowa rushing they ran for 131 yards, but only 3.4 yards per carry, which is not great. Josh Patterson was impressive, 11 carries for 60 yards. And then the receivers down here, Jacob Gill, 5 catches for 52 yards. All right, that's good. Sam Phillips, 1 for 15. Hayden Large, 1 for 7. I mean, there's only one receiver that had more than 1 catch, which seems wild to think about, but it's not good. That's really not good. And compare it to Iowa State, Rocco Becht didn't even have a great game. 18 of 27, 134 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. The Iowa defense did a great job there. Iowa State rushing the ball only ran for 104 yards as a team on 3.5 yards per carry, which is, that's not great. That's a good job for the Iowa defense. Brett Eskelson was the leading receiver, 2 carries for 39 yards. Just not, Iowa's defense played well in this game. They kept a pretty potent Iowa State offense, in check, for the most part. Rocco Becht made a couple throws, but if you told most Iowa fans that Rocco Becht would throw for 134 yards and 1 touchdown in this game, I think most Iowa fans would have been ecstatic. And instead, it's not enough. And I don't even really want to focus much on the defense tonight, because they played really well on Saturday. They handled the run. They gave up 1 or 2 big plays, but for the most part, Iowa's defense was outstanding on Saturday. They're not even close to the reason Iowa lost that game. And TJ Hall played a really good game. I think he had 3 to 4 pass deflections. I thought Carson Shire was flashing early in the game. Jaden Harrell had a solid overall game. Not able to get any sacks, which is, if you're going to knock the defense for one thing, not able to get any sacks would be the one thing that you would have to say about that. But the rest of the secondary played well. I really liked what I saw from Zach Lutmer. I thought Xavier Wampa played a good game as well. I mean, the defense did their jobs. When you hold a team to 16 points, you should win that game 99% of the time. And Iowa didn't do that. And they didn't do that because their offense was nowhere near good enough once again in a big game. I read off the stats for Mark Gronowski. He was better on Saturday. The bar was extremely low. Don't get me wrong. But he was better on Saturday, but still not good enough for what you're asking him to do. 13 of 24 for 83 yards. That's just not good enough. I read a stat somewhere that I think he has 127 passing yards in his first 2 starts at Iowa, and it's the lowest total for a quarterback making his first 2 starts in the Big Ten ever for a minimum of 30 pass attempts. Like, that's terrible. Iowa continues to break records, and not in a good way, with their passing offense. And yeah, they couldn't run the ball with any consistency outside of Jazz Patterson, who I have no idea why he didn't get the start in this game, or why it took until late in the second quarter for him to even get a carry. I have no idea why Iowa waited too long with that. And I'll talk about the game plan and Tim Lester a little bit later. But Iowa had one receiver that had more than one catch. It was Jacob Gill, who had a good game, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I'm tired of acting like things are going to change with this, with this offense and this passing offense. And let's listen to what Kirk Ferentz had to say about Mark Gronowski and the slow start for Iowa's offense yet again in a big game.
Yeah, certainly improved, and I thought he did a good job leading us, and some tough circumstances out there, but I thought he really did a good job. The biggest thing is he took a step forward, looked a lot more comfortable as a quarterback today. Last week he was really pressing, so good for him to get that experience, and really feel good about him moving forward.
Kirk, you guys have started slow offensively both games. Is there a common denominator there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, today we played a really good defensive team, with all due respect to our opponent last week, but these were two pretty good defensive teams playing today, and competing with each other. And the way the game panned out, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you think you're going to be in those kinds of games, and sometimes it ends up in the 40s. But to me, no surprise today. Both these teams play well on defense, and it was that kind of game.
So that was Kirk Ferentz after the loss, talking about the offense. Mark Gronowski, obviously, he's going to keep it pretty positive. Kirk Ferentz is not a guy who's going to come on after the game and blame the players too much for what happened. And it's just it's just his coaching style. And so I'm not surprised by that. But it's just more of the same with Iowa. And this loss, Iowa's now 0-10 versus in their last 10 games versus ranked opponents. 0-10. That is not good enough. That's just not good enough for what a program like Iowa wants to do. And I think it was either Chad Lysico of the Des Moines Register or David Eichel of 247 Sports that talked about Iowa's losing streak in those ranked games, and the fact that it's not just that they lost games, it's that they're getting blown out in these ranked games. Like, this 3-point loss to Iowa State was the closest ranked loss for Iowa in those last 10. They lost by 3. Outside of that, it's it's not competitive. It's not competitive. Yeah, here, it's David Eichel of 247 Sports who had the stat. He said Iowa's 0-10 in its last 10 games against ranked opponents, including bowl games. Yesterday's game was the only regular season game that Iowa was actually competitive in. They've been outscored 231-47 in those ranked games. Average score 33-6.7. So it's not even like, you're losing games to ranked teams, and every game's like the one on Saturday where you lose by a field goal. It's like, oh, we were right there. If we just make one or two plays, we pick up the win, and the narrative is changed. But no, like, Iowa doesn't beat good teams anymore, and they haven't for 4 years. 4 years. That's the last time Iowa won a ranked game. 2021, Penn State in that top 4 matchup. That's the last time. This is an Iowa program that has always prided themselves on being hard to play and on being a program that, where playoff dreams go to die, and where your season goes to end. And we saw it with Michigan in 2016 and Ohio State in 2017 and Penn State in 2021 and all this stuff. And it's not like that anymore. Those teams aren't afraid to play Iowa. They're not afraid to go to Kinnick Stadium. And why would you be? Iowa can't beat you through the air. And they haven't done so since 2019. This is 5 seasons now of this. 5. What's going to change? I don't understand why it is so difficult for Iowa in 2025 to throw the ball. I do not understand. Like, there are teams and programs with way less talent, with way less pedigree, who find a way to move the ball through the air. What's Iowa's excuse? You're a Big Ten program, one with great history, a great fan base who supports you financially. What's your excuse? You don't have one, and it's frustrating. It's really getting frustrating for fans. And it's getting to a point, I think, where apathy starts to kick in. And that's the worst place for a program to be. Because at least when fans are mad, they care. When you're upset about something, it means, deep down, you still care about it. Yeah, it makes you mad, but you want it to get better. When there's apathy, that means people are starting to not care. And that's really not good for Iowa. And I've already kind of shifted into it, but we're going to talk I want to get into the big picture stuff with this Iowa football program. But I want to let you know first that we do have merch here, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Our merch link is in the description. We have T-shirts and long sleeve shirts and koozies and mugs and any and everything else that you might want to support Iowa at the Voice of College Football. The merch link is in the description, so make sure you go and check that out. There's some pretty cool stuff down there, and it all supports us here at Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. So make sure you're checking out that merch link. I'll put the link here on the screen as well for you to take a look at. It's really cool. It supports us here at Iowa at the Voice of College Football, so I would definitely recommend checking that out for your Iowa needs. But let's talk about the state of the program. I'm going to give a State of the Union, State of the Iowa football program address here, but I'm going to put some comments up on the screen first. T. Hink is in the chat. Passing offense is never going to change. Yeah, it certainly seems that way. After what we've seen here in 2025 with things basically staying the same. T. Hink also, if it wasn't for the interception, I'm not sure Iowa State scores. Yeah, that interception, set up. Was that their only touchdown of the game? I think it was their only touchdown of the game off of the interception from Mark Gronowski. Caden Weechin slips. If he slips, is it picked off? Maybe not. Was it still a bad decision from Mark Gronowski? Most definitely. It's not a ball that should have been thrown out there. And it was a tough game for Caden Weechin. He didn't play super well on special teams or on offense, and that play was just kind of indicative of that. Defense played very well. I agree. The defense was the only reason that Iowa was in this game. There's not much more to talk about with the defense. They did their job, and they got let down once again by a pathetic offense. Cratered in 2-minute drive, and we paid him $2 million, and we got 2 sacks. Yeah, those sacks were really bad. You can't take a sack there. You just can't. And the offensive line, yeah, they give up some pressures, but Mark Gronowski is a guy who started over 50 collegiate games. You have to know you can't take a sack there. Inexcusable. Can't happen. Not good enough. And to think finally, from what I saw Saturday, I don't think we beat Indiana. Yeah, I don't know why you would pick Iowa to beat Indiana right now. I mean, they don't play ranked teams well, and in Indiana, barring a slip up, I know that they play Illinois, but there's a good chance Indiana's a ranked team heading into Kinnick at the end of the month. And I don't know why anyone would pick Iowa to win that game, because they just don't beat ranked teams anymore. So, I don't blame you at all, T. Hink, for not having any confidence. I don't have any confidence in them to win that game anymore, which is frustrating to hear come out of my mouth. Lee in the chat, you should start with recruiting and why we can't get the top kids, Iowa kids, to play for Iowa. And you read my mind, Lee. I was going to head right into recruiting with the state of the program address, because did you know that in the 2020s, we've had 5 recruiting classes, not counting this 2025 class because they just got on campus a few months ago. 2020 to 2024. Did you know that Iowa has had 2 quarterbacks from those 5 classes actually take a snap at Iowa? Do you want to guess who those 2 quarterbacks were? Deuce Hogan in the 2020 class, who threw all of 1 pass attempt, and Joe Labus in the 2021 recruiting class, who threw 24 attempts in 1 bowl game that he started. So over your last 5 recruiting classes, you've only had 2 quarterbacks that you've recruited out of high school take a snap for you. And they've combined for 25 pass attempts. Iowa hasn't developed a high school quarterback that they recruited to be a good college quarterback in almost a decade. Nate Stanley was the last one that they did that with. Do you realize how hard it is to do that? How hard it is to miss on high school quarterbacks year after year after year? You're telling me you haven't developed not one semi-competent quarterback out of high school? How? Iowa State's developed 2 NFL caliber quarterbacks out of high school since then. And you haven't? Illinois is going to put one in the NFL probably this year. I mean, go down the line of Big Ten schools in that time. Minnesota had a guy like, I don't understand. Programs that you on the surface are better than are able to develop these quarterbacks, and you're not able to. And so because you can't recruit and develop good quarterbacks out of high school, you resort to the transfer portal and the scrap heap, which is where you get Cade McNamara, which is where you get Brendan Sullivan, no offense, and it's where you get Mark Gronowski. You're getting the guys at the top programs with big NIL money don't want. And I know Miami wanted Mark Gronowski if they didn't get Carson Beck and all these rumors and reports, whatever. I don't care. Because you can't recruit and develop good quarterbacks out of high school, you are left to go to the transfer portal. And Iowa's not getting a top-tier transfer portal quarterback. They're not getting a Cam Ward or a John Mateer or a Carson Beck. And so you get that second tier of QBs, the ones who need a good system and good receivers and good offensive line and good coaching to succeed. And Iowa doesn't have that. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And then the wide receivers. It's been an issue for years now. I mean, you have to go back again to when you had Nate Stanley, to Amir Smith-Marset and Brandon Smith, the last time that you actually had good, competent Big Ten wide receivers. And you had more guys because you had Charlie Jones. And guess what? You didn't use him right. And he left for Purdue, where, shocker, he was used correctly, and now he's in the NFL with the Bengals. And actually a good receiver with Joe Burrow, like a trusted receiver from Joe Burrow. But Iowa couldn't develop him, and they couldn't use him right. Because, of course, they can't. Same thing with Tyrone Tracy. You remember Tyrone Tracy? Made some plays his freshman year at Iowa. And Iowa didn't use him right. And he left. Guess where Tyrone Tracy is at now? Oh, yeah, he's in the NFL. Guess where Iowa receivers from the past 5 years aren't at right now? Oh, yeah, the NFL. Because Iowa can't develop good receivers. It's the same thing. And all the receivers on the roster right now do the exact same thing. Sam Phillips, Seth Anderson. Jacob Gill, whatever you want to say, like, they do the same thing. Iowa's not they're not recruiting different kinds of receivers. Like, they're not recruiting big guys to play outside who can, go up and catch contested balls. Like, they have one guy, and it's Reese Vanderzee, and he's hurt right now. And it's a problem. If you go back and watch the tape of that Iowa State game, look at how their corners and their secondary played Iowa. They were not afraid of any deep shots. They were not afraid at all. I mean, they played Iowa so uptight and personal in the secondary because they knew that there was no chance in heck that Iowa was, throwing deep, because the game plan was so conservative in that first half. And Iowa doesn't have the receivers to beat you deep consistently, or the quarterback to throw the ball. T. Hink, I wouldn't be shocked if multiple wide receivers leave. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either. I wouldn't blame them at all. I would not blame a single receiver for getting out of town and going somewhere that's actually going to use them right and develop them and give them a shot to be an NFL receiver. Wouldn't blame them. Would not blame them at all. Lee, is it lack of NIL? I mean, yeah, part of it, I guess. But Iowa fans support the team well, and they've gotten really good. I mean, for a school like Iowa, really good NIL, money. But Iowa's always been a developmental program, and they don't develop their quarterbacks or wide receivers ever. It's a big problem. No school wants to rely on the portal, and that's what's happening. Yep, I agree. James said, It's not like it's not like we've had the same coach for 20 plus years. Yeah, I mean that's a discussion to have for sure. Lee says, why don't they use Weechin like they won the way that they use Cooper DeJean? I just don't know if Caden Weechin is that same level of talent and brings what Cooper DeJean brought to the table. Unfortunately, and I like Caden Weechin. He had a bad game, but I'm not saying that he's some bum now. But until Caden Weechin runs a complete route tree and is an actual threat as a receiver, I don't know why there's any reason to have super high expectations for him offensively, unfortunately. And Lee says Wildcat. I mean, maybe. You might have to at this point to get something going offensively and to try and spark this offense, because they've had no spark through 2 games this season. James said, what do you mean quarterback? You must not have watched Mark at South Dakota State. They threw deep balls when he was at SDSU. Yeah, they did. They 100% did. Mark Gronowski, I think, is a good quarterback. And I'm not, saying that he's the big problem here. Obviously, he hasn't played up to expectations. But I'm more so talking about the program and the style of football that Iowa plays. It's just not sustainable in 2025. It's not how you win football games. I mean, look last night. For example, fantastic Sunday night football game. Bills and Ravens, 41-40, back and forth. 2 elite quarterbacks, 2 elite offenses, duking it out until the very end. Whoever gets the ball back last wins the game, and then that's exactly what happened. And I get it, NFL to college, it's different, but you need to be able to score points and move the ball as an offense in 2025. Iowa can't rely on its defense to win games 13-10 anymore. That's just not reliable in the Big Ten in 2025. It's just not. And it needs to change. And unfortunately, I don't think as long as Kirk Ferentz is here that it will. And I think Iowa's in deep trouble recruiting-wise because of that. I mean, think about it. If you're a high school quarterback or wide receiver, why the hell would you ever consider going to Iowa? Why? Why would you ever consider it? Not even talking about taking a visit or committing. Why would you ever consider going to Iowa if you're a high school quarterback or wide receiver? Because you're not going to get developed. That's what you've seen the last almost 1 decade. You're not getting developed. So why would you ever want to go to Iowa? You're going to start missing out on good in-state prospects because of your system. Because of your system. And guess what? You're going to have to keep going back to the well in the transfer portal to try and get some guys that didn't have many other options. And Iowa was their only Power 5 or Power 4 school and all this stuff. Because you're not going to be able to get top tier quarterbacks and tight end and wide receivers out of high school because they don't want to come play for you because you don't develop those positions well at all in the last 5 years. We're reaching a breaking point with this program, I think. And it's almost getting to the point of no return. Iowa has a choice to make this season, this offseason. What are we as a program? And the answer to that question is going to determine how successful Iowa football is the next decade. Because if Iowa doubles down on what they're doing currently, and just says, "Oh, we just need to get another quarterback in here. Oh, we just need to get another receiver in here from the transfer portal, and oh, we just need to get this or we just need to get that." This program is not going to be very good in 5 years. We're reaching a turning point where with NIL, with Iowa State in state, like they're becoming the premier football program, and I hate to say that, but if you're a quarterback or a wide receiver, especially in the state of Iowa, and you have offers from Iowa and Iowa State, there's no reason that you should go to Iowa over Iowa State. None whatsoever. Iowa State develops those positions better than Iowa. And you're going to start losing top tier recruits and talent to other programs that at one point it wasn't even a question of whether you were a better program than them. And now it is because of what's happened these last couple of years. Because your offense and your passing offense especially is a nationwide joke. A nationwide joke. And it still is this year. Again, not all Mark Gronowski's fault, but the facts are the facts. 127 passing yards in 2 games. Iowa's passing offense is a joke nationally. So if you're a high school quarterback or wide receiver, why would you want to commit to Iowa when all you hear nationally is people clowning on Iowa for not being able to throw the ball? It makes no sense. I just don't get it. Lee says ISC beat us with their tight ends, and we don't have any. Yeah, we saw Addison Ostrenga go out with an injury in the first quarter, and I wasn't very impressed with Zach Ortworth, who came in to replace him. You have DJ Vonamy, but he had 1 catch for 5 yards, I think. Iowa's tight ends have not been good this year, or really last year. I know Luke Lachey was hurt last year, but it's not been good, especially when you look at Iowa State developing tight ends recently. Charlie Kohler, Benjamin Bramer now, Gabe Burkle, who had that crazy deflected catch. Like, Iowa State's even doing your tight ends better than you right now. Like, that's just not good enough. It's just really not good enough. James says Kirk will be here. Tell you he doesn't want to. That's the unfortunate part. Yeah, Kirk will not. Kirk's going to be the head coach until Kirk says he's done. And I think that's the end of the discussion right there. There's no reason. I've seen a lot of fans saying fire Kirk Ferentz. That's never going to happen. So don't waste your breath. Expecting it or hoping for something to happen that's not going to. Iowa's not going to fire Kirk Ferentz. So it's just not worth. It's just not worth wasting your energy on that. He says if you can't win, you don't get looked at. Yeah, the more Iowa loses in this series, the more they're going to get overlooked by top tier in-state prospects and recruits. Unfortunately, James, it's sad that you're a Big Ten school and Mark had better weapons when he was at South Dakota State. Yeah, I mean, for sure at wide receiver. I don't know about South Dakota State's running back core or offensive line or tight ends, but for sure receiver wise, it seems like Mark Gronowski had better weapons there, which is an indictment on the program here at Iowa and their development or lack of development of receivers. Lee in the chat, why did they start Washington and Patterson in quarter 1 and not Xavier Williams? I have no idea. I don't have any idea why or what the affection with Terrell Washington Jr. is. I'm not speaking to the character of any of these players. Never. I'm sure all of these players are fantastic guys and great dudes in the locker room. I'm never talking about character or them as a person, but just on the field, there's no reason that Terrell Washington should be starting over Xavier Williams or Jazz Patterson, in my opinion. And he was listed as the starter for the UMass game once again, and I don't really understand it. Terrell Washington in The Cyhawk game had 5 carries for 8 yards. Jazz Patterson had 11 for 60. And Xavier Williams had 7 for 26. I just don't understand the affection with Terrell Washington starting as a running back. I think he would be a solid kind of hybrid guy if you can get him out as a receiver. That's where he was recruited to be, and that's where he came in to this program to be. And it just hasn't worked out at running back. And I don't know why Iowa has now doubled down on that heading into the UMass game. But I mean, I think we need to see more of Jazz Patterson. I think we need to see more of Xavier Williams. Been really impressed with those two and their roles this season. But I don't know. James said Isaiah Davis plays for the Jets. He was there as a running back. Yeah, South Dakota State had some really good weapons to put around Mark Gronowski, and Iowa, at least in the receiving game, doesn't really have any. And with Ostrenga out now, I really don't know where they go with these receivers. But Iowa's in trouble as a program, but they're in real trouble right now. The tide in the state is shifting. The tide in the Big Ten is shifting. And Iowa's in threat of being left behind because their style of play is so antiquated, because it's so old school. And I mean, I don't know how you fix it without a regime change, without a new head coach. And I'm not calling for Kirk Ferentz his job. I'm not doing that right now. But I don't know how under the current coaching staff, under the current, how much, or under the current, system at Iowa, how much can Iowa get better and improve? I don't think very much. I don't think very much. Unfortunately, at least in the passing game, and that's what matters. And they come up short yet again. Lee said, how much is Lester being held back? I wanted to talk about that because it's a question that a lot of fans have had. Is Kirk Ferentz holding Tim Lester back? Is Kirk Ferentz, the ones taking control of play calls at certain points in the game? I don't know. I think against Albany, Kirk Ferentz came in after those first 3 drives and said, "Hey, we're going to run the ball now." I think that was definitely a Ferentz call. But I don't think Kirk Ferentz is scripting up the first 20 plays. That's usually the offensive coordinator's job. And those first 20 plays, those first couple drives on Saturday were some of the worst play calling I've ever seen at Iowa, regardless of offensive coordinator. It was terrible. Iowa was so conservative. And why? Why were you so conservative in that game on Saturday offensively? You have nothing to lose. You're playing an unranked team on the road. Everyone's saying that you're going to lose. And so what do? How do you try and combat that narrative? You feed right into it. You feed right into it. With your conservative play calling in that first half. I don't get it. I don't understand. Run, pass. Run, pass. Run, pass. Every drive. Hey, Iowa. You can throw the ball on first down in the first half. Hey, that's allowed. It's not in the rule books to say that you can't do that. So I don't understand why you don't. Hey, Iowa, you can throw on 2nd and 10. You don't have to run a pitch play. You can actually throw the ball. Hear me out. Throw the ball down the field to your wide receivers who will catch, maybe not catch the ball after what we saw on Saturday. Those drops were atrocious. But you can throw the ball down the field to receivers who hopefully catch the ball and move the ball and pick up big yards. You're allowed to do that. You are. Shocking, I know, but you're allowed to do that. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Lee says, why do they keep running the ball back up the middle in the first play of every game only to get stuffed? I have no idea. It's Iowa football. Iowa football, ladies and gentlemen, right there for you to watch every Saturday. The same old thing. James says, my thing is when we had Brian, it was also running on pass though, so it isn't that interesting. I mean, yeah, regardless of coordinator, it's been a run pass scenario, and it's been frustrating every single time. It's really annoying, and I don't understand. James says, what's the point total you get to feel even comfortable against UMass? I mean, I don't know. UMass is terrible. UMass is absolutely atrocious. They're 0-2 this year. They just lost to Bryant. This is a terrible UMass team, but so was Albany, and Iowa put up 34. I mean, I don't know if any amount of points will make you feel any better. I mean, you could put up 70 points on Saturday, but is anyone going to feel great about that offense? Not really. At least I won't feel great about it because it's just UMass. I mean, I think at least 35 to 40 minimum. Anything less than that is a complete embarrassment. But I just don't think that any amount of points is going to make you feel really good about this offense heading into Big Ten play because it's just UMass. Iowa had a chance to change the narrative on Saturday, and instead of doing that, they fed right into it. And it's just how it is. We're going to play this message from the voice of college football, and we'll come back and wrap up the show after that.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
And thank you to Mark Rogers for that message. But yeah, we're gonna be heading into the final stretch here of this State of the Union, State of the Program address for Iowa. It's been a good chance for me to kind of get some anger out and some frustration about this program, and I have legit concerns going forward about what's going to happen, with Iowa. I'm very concerned after Saturday's game. It's another frustrating loss in the Cy-Hawk game. Same story as last year. It's just very disappointing. Lee says, I don't doubt Ferentz is playing a field position game against ISU. That was the plan. I mean, it definitely was his plan. It's always his plan just to play the field position game. Try and win 14-10. 17-13. That's how Iowa wants to win games, and it's worked in the past. It's not going to work in 2025. And I think as soon as that tipped ball landed in Gabe Burkle's hands, I think every Iowa fan knew that they weren't winning that game, and Conradi makes the kick again, and then we get the disaster that was the last offensive series of the game. But it's just Iowa football. Unfortunately, it's just Iowa football. They, you know, it's just how they play the game, and we can be frustrated about it, but it's not going to change. Not this year, at least. I'm so down on the team right now, but there's still 10 games left. You're gonna go beat. They're probably gonna go beat the crap out of UMass on Saturday. I'm sure the team is pretty pissed after that performance against Iowa State. So I'm sure that that UMass is going to be in for a butt whooping on Saturday. But after that, it's Big Ten play. You're at Rutgers, and then you host Indiana before your bye week. I mean, Rutgers. I don't even think that game is a for sure win anymore. Ethan Kelly managed their quarterback. When he's on, and he threw for 4 touchdowns for Rutgers this past weekend. He's really good. Ian Strawn, their wide receiver, is good as well. Greg Schiano's a solid head coach. Like, I don't even know if that game is, a for sure win, especially with the fact that it's over in Piscataway. And then in Indiana is obviously not a for sure win, even at home. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have a lot of faith in Iowa to beat a ranked team. I know I don't right now. 0-10 in their last 10 games versus ranked teams. And Lee said, Wheatgen, not one return. Yeah, Iowa State kept the ball out of his hands for the most part, but there were some baffling decisions on some punt returns. He did have one return that he ran backwards on. The ball bounced at the 30, I think, and he picked it up inside his own 15 and ran backwards and was tackled at his own 5-yard line. It didn't work out. It was a tough game for Caden Wheatgen. It was a tough game for a lot of guys on Saturday. So not just throwing Caden Wheatgen under the bus. There were a lot of guys who didn't play super well. Rutgers will be a toss-up. I think it is now. If you had told me that 1 month ago, I would have said I would have called you crazy. But Rutgers is definitely a toss-up game now. Unfortunately, I think every Big Ten game for the most part, outside of maybe Minnesota, depending on if Iowa gets if they get their game together, maybe Minnesota. But outside of that, every Big Ten game is either a toss-up or you're probably not favored to win. I'm talking about Penn State and Oregon at home with those. I mean, this is going to be it's gut check time for Iowa right now. It's gut check time, and we're not going to learn much against UMass, but I mean, it's what is this Iowa team made of? We're about to find out. I spent 45 minutes burying this team, but there's 10 games left, and the future of the program is concerning, but that doesn't matter for this season yet. What do you got? Can you change the narrative? Mark Gronowski, what are you going to do? Tim Lester, what are you going to do? Receivers, what are you going to do? Are you actually going to catch the ball? Going forward for Mark Gronowski. Lots of questions, and we'll know more in a few weeks after that Indiana game. If I was rebounded, my tone will change. But right now, it's a frustrating loss once again in the Cyhawk game, and Iowa's got some serious questions to answer going forward. That's all I got to say. I'm going to wrap things up a bit early tonight. We do have some Monday Night Football action. Vikings and Bears, former Hawkeyes, all across the field there. TJ Hawkinson, Torrey Taylor to check out in that game. So I'm excited to watch two NFC North rivals duke it out on Monday Night Football, watch some former Hawks in the process. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jack_Heine. Follow my written work at Hawkeyes Wire, where me and Josh work with a lot of great people to bring you the best, most up-to-date Iowa athletic content out there. And make sure you're following, of course, the Voice of College Football at the VOCFB on X. And that will do it for me tonight. I'll be back on Thursday with Josh to talk more about the Cyhawk game, hear Josh's thoughts and preview a bit of UMass as well. I'll talk to you on Thursday, but until then, go Hawks.